Today we have a crazy entitled parent story of an absolutely delusional stepfather. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, dog meat chickens? What could go wrong? This happened about 12 years ago, but I just read something that reminded me, so I thought I would put it here. We have a Great Pyrenees Lab mix. He is the best boy and is approaching age 15 now. When he was about 2, my daughter was 8 or so and had a friend from school who also had a young dog who played well with W, our dog. One day the mom, entitled mother, asked us to go over to her house so the dogs and kids could play. We had never been to her house before, so we went over, pulled in the driveway, and entitled mother told us to let W out in their yard. I did, not noticing that she had her chickens free-ranging in the yard. She never said she even had chickens, never mind asking me if W was chicken safe. Well, W did what W's instincts told him to do and had a grand old time chasing the fluffy toys that ran and made noise. Entitled mother started shrieking and running around like a nutcase. My kid and I managed to catch W and leash him. I was about to put him in the car when entitled mother says, "Well, the dogs can play inside." Why the ever-living freak did I agree? No idea. So we follow her inside where she said to put the dogs in the playroom. She then out of nowhere started yelling at W and telling him what a bad dog he was. Before I could grab him, W, not ever having been screamed at before, promptly had diarrhea all over the rug, which was white and expensive white wool rug, in the dog playroom. Much more screaming. I apologized for the poop and got the 3 of us out of there to find the husband in the driveway. Husband helps W get in our car and apologizes up, down, and sideways for his wife's behavior. His daughter had run out and told him. "No worries," I said. "We're going to take W to the dog park to calm down and run around." You would think that's the end, wouldn't you? About 10 minutes after we got to the dog park, entitled mother comes marching in to yell at me further. At that point, I just wasn't having it and told her to get away from us or I would call the cops. I was mid-dial when she finally went away. Entitled or crazy? I think both. I think both too. Who in their right mind is going to assume that some stranger's dog that you don't really know is going to be okay not chasing your free-ranging chickens around? And chasing is putting it lightly because I know a lot of dogs, they can't help themselves and they see it as a little bit more than just a fluffy toy. And then to double down and yell at the person's dog? Needless to say, probably never associating with that person ever again. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you can't get enough of hearing about these entitled parents, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, my mom is trying to push me out of my comfort zone again. I, trans male 16, have started grieving due to 2 of our older dogs passing away. I wasn't allowed to grieve when they passed because I had to stay strong and bury the dogs, so my siblings won't. I physically picked up the dogs, tried to save them both, and couldn't each separate time. Then was forced to dig the hole and bury them while my mom and her girlfriend watched. The dogs died due to old age, but still I'm hurt. And having to do that while I'm mentally ill and in and out of the mental hospital probably wasn't the best choice. I told both my mom and her girlfriend that I'll refuse to ever go into that shed till I feel like I'm mentally able to for my safety. I don't want to spiral into another deeper depression episode and try to do something I'd regret. They of course didn't listen. In fact, I think they heard, "Push me onto the shed faster," because they've been trying to get the shed ready, more like another bedroom for me. I'm refusing this. I hate that shed. I hate that I had to walk into the backyard and see my puppies gone. I force myself into the backyard daily to feed and play with the other 2 dogs we have. It's hard enough as is. But they just keep trying and I keep breaking down, going mute, crying, shutting down, etc. They are single-handedly causing me to spiral into this depression cycle, but they don't know why I won't open up to them about my feelings. Today, my mom tried to make me go into the shed to grab some paperwork for her. Our last bit of boxes are in there too. It's like a smaller apartment-sized shed. I said again, I refuse to go into that shed. She knows each time I walk into it, I cry and break down. She told me it's just me throwing a fit and trying to be lazy. I told her that's funny because when you were in a depression cycle, which caused me to clean, cook, babysit everyone, then push me past my breaking point so we lived in filth, but I never said, "Oh mom, you have to get up and help, you're being lazy." No, I tried to help you because you made me your therapist till I was 14. She's now mad, and my dad, who's on the road, and they're in the middle of a divorce, is blowing up my Facebook Messenger. They took me off the phone bill for arguing about pushing me past my comfort zone. trying to push me into doing it. But I refuse. If she wants it so bad, she can get it. She has 2 legs, use it. I'm mentally exhausted and I'm pushing myself away from trying to end it all each day, since she also lost my social security card and doctor stuff, so I'm not able to get my therapist and meds. I need you to know not be this bad. But don't worry, she has everyone else's stuff, just not mine. Also, the paperwork she needs is a resume that's out of date she used to get a job because she just quit another one. I think at this point, honestly, OP has to be defensive. And by that I don't mean reactive, by that I mean deflective. Don't allow it to pile on more. If they're trying to pressure you to go out there and do it, you say no. You use her hypocritical depression episode BS back against her. But I'd say ideally you definitely want to get away from those people, but I know it's easier said than done. Our next story is not buying a handheld game for her kids after was told not. I received a gift card from work for a pop-up store. The store opens Thanksgiving week to the day after New Year's. I saw some handheld games for cheap with 150 games built in, so I called several family members asking if it's a good gift for their children. All said yes except one aunt. She said it's too cheap for her kids and don't bother her about it because she's buying them the more expensive kind. Christmas came around, all the kids loved theirs. I even bought some for the adults in my family who have special needs. We have a device where we can engrave names on everyone's game. The aunt demanded why I didn't get a game for her kids. I reminded her of what she said. I was told I lied. I gave my phone to another family member and asked to read the text messages she sent calling the game cheap, that she was planning on buying her kids a better game system. She didn't buy her kids a game system because they're expensive. She demanded that we take the games from the adults with special needs because they're adults and don't need the game. Her kids are shocked and telling their mother to calm down. She demanded why I didn't tell her it had that many games on it. I said no, we bought a round gift for kids. She left, but kids and husband wanted to stay. So when she left, I gave the kids the same game like everyone else. The next day she called me upset because she had to eat a sandwich and chips for Christmas dinner. My response? No one told you to leave, you left on your own. Haven't had a problem with her since Christmas. I like that apparently OP had enough extras or still planned on buying them the gift anyways. I think this just goes to show when you're gifting something, although sometimes it's nice to get input from people who are connected to said person, maybe don't always treat their input as the gospel as far as what is or isn't a good gift. Our next story is, my dad is such a man-child. Okay, so here's the deal. For about a week or two, the Xfinity remote at my house was missing, and one time I was trying to look for it, and my dad came up and asked what I was looking for, so I told him how the remote was missing. This is relevant because this is what the main post is about. Okay, fast forward into today, I come home from work and saw the furniture in my house was moved around, as if it looked like someone was cleaning up. It was my dad. He was very angry because the remote was gone, and he was talking to my sister yesterday and he told her, "Where's the remote? Your brother said that you lost it." Number one, no, I did not say that, so he lied. Then she told him that I lost it. Also, when this part happened with him asking, I was hanging out with my friends Sunday. So he told me that, and I was trying to tell him about how I don't watch the TV, and before I could say more, he cut me off and said that he found it, and before he found it, he was going to threaten my siblings and I and said, "If y'all don't find the remote in 3 days, I'm going to cut off everything because I can't watch TV." What does this everything include? Cable and Wi-Fi. Thank God he didn't say anything because he found it. I don't care if the cable gets cut off, I don't even watch TV, but the Wi-Fi? I'm a programmer, or at least getting into it more since I'm a CS major and I'm on a break from school, so I've been trying to work on making a game, so I need it, and my siblings would need it for school-related stuff, or in general for important stuff. Same for my mom. Long story short, we need the Wi-Fi, and my dad literally was about to threaten to cut it off because he couldn't watch TV? What? Also, to add on to this, I didn't lose it because where my dad found it, I was not guilty of this, nor was my brother. He wasn't even involved. It was kinda my sister's fault for it being lost, but the main thing is that he was going to cut the Wi-Fi off because of something stupid. If this isn't man-child behavior, I don't know what is. It sounds so petty from him. And also even more the fact that I or my brother didn't do anything wrong, so he was going to take something away from us that we need because of him wanting to watch some TV. There are many more examples I can include about my dad being entitled or being a man-child, but this post would be way too long. So I just wanted to talk about this since it just happened. I may post more about him later in the future or something for his entitlement, my mom too, but my dad is a lot worse. I definitely agree with OP's outrage here, and personally I definitely think the most upsetting thing here is it wasn't even OP or their brother's fault, but because the father was upset, they're willing to just blame anybody they can and make them all suffer until it gets resolved. Time to glue an AirTag to the back of the TV remote so nothing happens. Our next story is Abusive Entitled Mom tries to call police on me and gets herself arrested. I'm a 23-year-old nanny and have posted entitled parent stories from that job, but I do also hold another position as a cashier at night and weekends, and I finally have one from this job. So I work as a cashier at a 24-hour grocery store, and this particular store, while we do technically have a corporate office and are a chain in a way, we are privately owned. And the employees are considered the owners because we invest part of our pay into the company, which, while we have management and supervisors, we're given broad discretion with denying service and throwing people out. Basically, if you have a good reason, and they can see it in our cameras that there's a good reason, we're good to go. Okay, now for the story. It was a busy Saturday afternoon just a few days ago, and we were packed to the point the lines are wrapped around aisles, so it is loud, busy, packed, and hot. I'm tired and see it's only 30 minutes till my shift ends, and I'm trying to keep up my nice smile and customer service voice. Briefly to my side, I hear a kid yell. He looks about 3-ish. Not like tantrum, but like just angry, trying to get mom's attention. I ignore him because kids having tantrums or getting angry is normal. I start talking to the lady in front of me and I hear the kid, who by the way was actually quite sweet, he yells again for mom. "Mom, I want my juice." Now, he was yelling it, but it was no way close to a tantrum or a fit. His family was the next in line. Frankly, if he'd have been in a different line, I probably wouldn't have noticed at all. In my opinion, he was more like getting mom's attention, and his mom, entitled mom, just snaps. She turns around and grabs him by his shoulders, goes nose to nose and screams as he shakes him back and forth. "You will not behave like this, you brat. I'm so tired of this. If you do not stop, you'll get a beating when we get home." Now I was shocked, and so was everyone around. She didn't say punishment or even spanking, she said beating. Now I was about to tell the lady in front of me to excuse me while I talked to the mother, but she jumped in so fast. She went up to the entitled mother and said, "How dare you talk to your son like that? He's a child and you should never put your hands on him or threaten them, then embarrass him in front of everyone." I was proud this lady said something, but I was still going to and paged for a manager in the process, because I had a feeling this would go bad. Entitled mother starts yelling back she has the right to do whatever she wants to her son. She could spank, beat, and yell as she sees fit. Now I jump on verbally. "Ma'am, I need you to take yourself and leave the store. Your children and husband, who by the way did nothing during this, can check out, but you need to leave." "Excuse me," she yelled. "You need to leave. We do not tolerate abusive children or other customers. You've done some both by screaming at this woman." I turned to the other woman, as much as I didn't want to have to say, "Ma'am, I appreciate your concern, but let us handle this." She wasn't mad, she stepped away to bag her things. I turned back to the mom and she's losing it. "You can't do that, I have the right to shop here. I demand to see a manager, blah blah blah." I swear she reaches a pitch only dogs could hear. At this point, my awesome manager shows up. "Hey OP, what's going on?" Before I can speak, entitled mother speaks up. "This witch won't let me check out because she doesn't like how I discipline my child." I said, "That's not true, manager. What happened was..." Before I could finish, he spoke up. "Ma'am, we do not tolerate bee-calling of any kind in our store, and I need you to be quiet so I can hear from both of you." He turns to me. I then rattle off the story and his eyes widen. Mind you, again, it's a busy day and other customers are around listening, and about 3 or 4 people jump in to defend me, which thankfully my manager listened to. He turns to the lady and her family. "Ma'am, I need you to leave the store. Your family can finish checking out, but you need to leave. If you don't, I'll call police. Frankly, you'll be lucky if I don't do that anyway with the threats you made." She tries to stand up for herself, but my manager just escorts her out. The family just follows after her, without their food. You'd think this was the end, but nope. About 15-ish minutes later, after I fill out a report with my manager explaining everything, I head outside to get in my car and head home. I'm on the phone with a friend trying to explain what happened with the lady, but as I walk outside, I see a police car outside. No lights, just outside. I thought it was weird because I didn't see anyone get caught shoplifting that day, so I shrug and move on. As I reach my car, I hear it. "That's the girl, officer. She's the one who assaulted me and refused to let me shop here." I turn and see the woman from earlier with her kids and husband with 2 cops. I couldn't help it. I laugh. "Are you serious, lady?" My friend's trying to talk to me, but the officer just says, "Ma'am, can you come here so I can get your side and settle this?" I tell my friend I'll call her back and go talk to the officer. He keeps me away from the entitled mother, but I can still see and hear her. I briefly explain what happened. I told him I believed what she was doing to her son was abusive and that it wasn't okay. The cop asked for specifics, and I tell him what I saw and heard her threaten. But before the cop can say anything, the entitled mother yells, "I'm his mother. I can discipline as I see fit. I can beat him if I want." Again, I'm wide-eyed with her wording still using beating, not spanking, and the cop looks just as shocked. "If you'd like, my manager's inside. His name is so-and-so, and he can show you the cameras. And this store actually has microphones, so you can hear what she says." I admit that I refused service and called her abusive, but that's it. I never touched her. Entitled mother's still yelling, "See, she admits to verbally assaulting me and refusing me service because of who I am. Arrest her." The cop sighs, looks at his partner and nods. He looks at me and says, "Okay, you can go. I'm going to give you this card with an email you can send your statement to about what happened." The cop turns to the lady and I see the other cop has his hand on the entitled mother saying something to her. I'm assuming it was because she was being arrested or investigated, because she then shouted, "No, I did nothing wrong. She should be charged, not me. I'm his mom and I can do what I want." She tries to leave, and while one has his hands on her arm, the other stopped her. She instantly backs down and goes inside with one of the officers. The other stays with the kids and husband, who hadn't said anything throughout all this, just looking at the ground. I couldn't resist. Before she was out of earshot, I yelled, "Have a good day, Karen." The cop turned and gave me a look of "don't push your luck." I shrugged, got in my car, and called my friend back to tell her what happened. When I got back to work on Sunday, I asked my manager what happened. He said he showed the video and made a report. Mom got arrested, and we were told CPS would be getting involved more than likely. I really hope that the dad is a good parent, and she's the only abusive one. I hope those kids get a better life, and I hope that poor boy knows he did nothing wrong. I'll update if I hear any more from the cops about the case. Knowing how many stories even just populate this subreddit alone, more than likely they're going to investigate things, they're going to be able to clean it up enough to look like they're not abusive parents, and that poor kid will probably still have to grow up with that. But you would hope that these people would actually do their jobs and hold these people accountable, right? You know, actually look out for these kids. Our next story is, entitled mother abuses her parents, blackmails her son for his dad's child support money. So currently I'm a 21-year-old male now. A lot of things have changed since the last time I wrote a post. My grandmother has gotten dizzy by overheating. So some people know how my mother, 39-year-old female, has been very abusive towards everybody. She even went to my own Facebook account to delete and block my family, dad's side, and add herself into it when I was young because she was pissed off about a graduation that essentially she wasn't allowed to be in. Fast forward to today, and obviously things have escalated a bit further. My grandfather, dad's side, passed away due to stage 4 cancer, but he left me, 2 other uncles, dad's side, unmentioned in the original post, and my dad some inheritance. One got a Jeep, one got a Camaro, one got his farm, and I got an XL7, childhood vehicle of course. That's what he said to my grandmother before he passed away. In Puerto Rico, after you hit the age of 21, you're now legally classified as an adult, which means I cannot call CPS. But unfortunately, this also presents another problem. Assume a child support services office won't clear the debt that my dad has to pay. Okay, so that's fine. I was told on my birthday I'll get the XL7 and my money. I never got it. My entitled mother was pissed, but of course, I wasn't. I understood the situation, as my grandmother on the dad's side was on vacation, and my dad cannot manage anything legally due to him having legal problems with Assume. So I got a letter from Assume, meaning that my mother cannot handle the case as that I'm now of age. I can handle the case myself. Joy, because this is exactly what I needed to hear since I was 18. Unfortunately, Entitled Mother has other plans in case if I don't do anything. My grandmother and dad explained to me that I have to go to Assume to clear things up and to let them get me a new card, since apparently Assume glitched out and put my account and my brother's account into one card, or let the money be wired to my bank account. In April, I borrowed a car, went to my local university, got out of class, went with my dad to Assume in Cayenne, and unfortunately all the cases that had to be handled in Caguas. Okay, so let's go to Caguas. Oh wait, I can't go because my Entitled Mother refuses to lend me the car to go to Caguas. That's fine because I can go with my dad. Oh wait, he forgot and now won't do anything. So here I am with no child support money and the XL7 I was promised. Oh wait, but what does my Entitled Mother do? Instead of being respectful like any other human being, she decided to go to the same route that she did towards my two grandparents in 2012, right when my grandfather was diagnosed with cancer. She decides to blackmail/threaten me that if I don't get an answer from my grandmother or my dad, she'll go to some judge or whatever that's handling my case and then make me legally incapacitated, essentially making me treated like I'm legally mentally disabled or underaged. The problem is that she's been too greedy, as her plan consists of her leaving me her car and taking mine, so when her car breaks down, I have to pay for all the stuff. To top it off, she claims she'll lend me her car to go to therapy, and she never did, and then gets angry because I never went to therapy. And she's been wanting my $10,000 of owed child support money to fund her own food truck business, when I was going to use said money to move out to the US and get a job. And apparently, according to her, I have exactly 3 days at the time of writing this post to get my money and the vehicle, or else I'm apparently going to be incapacitated. This is utterly depressing. I even tried getting help from crowdfunding, but unfortunately I can't seem to do that because GoFundMe refuses to put the money on my own account because they don't like Puerto Rico. To top it off, I'm taking care of my grandparents, her parents, and they're also pinning the blame on me for not calling them, despite that she's being greedy enough to where she's forcing me to get all my stuff now or be a slave. She claims she wants to see me succeed, she wants me to do better, and she wants me to be successful, but all I see is that she wants me to be her slave. She wants me to do everything by her bidding, especially if I'm 21 or older, and she wants me to fail. There's a reason why I have plans on moving out. I can't handle people like her. I can't even talk to a therapist because they all disclose the information to her regardless of age when she's not allowed to. I can't even go to therapy. She won't let me go. She expects my therapist to call me when the office said that I have to be there. She's an entitled and greedy son of a witch, but she's also a freaking criminal. And the fact that the Puerto Rican police refuses to do a case investigating her for possible domestic abuse, Title 54? It's dumb. OP says that they're working up to get out of there and get to Florida, which I sincerely hope they can manage to just break through this stranglehold and get there. I know it sounds like almost every step of the way, the officials that OP's dealt with, whether it's judges or the cops themselves, have all failed OP, but I would sincerely hope and expect that a judge, when somebody's trying to file for mental incapacity, would actually do their due diligence to confirm that it's even the case. This next story is Pride Month ruined by my delusional stepfather. First, some background on me and my parents. I'm an immigrant. My mom and I moved overseas when I was 7 years old, after 2 years of her and my stepdad meeting online and dating. My biological dad passed away a month before I was born, and I didn't have much of a relationship with my mother for those first few years of my life, and worked 6 days a week being the sole breadwinner. My stepdad was always nice and caring, although now I realize a lot of my perception of him was influenced by my mother, because in a way, it was like she was trying to sell him to me and wanted me to embrace my new dad and this wonderful new life we had in this foreign Western country. She had always highlighted the positive things about my stepdad, which then made it easy for me, as a child, to overlook his many, many faults. My mother didn't have a job for the first 2 years of living in the new country, and my relationship with her actually deteriorated the more time we spent together. She was both emotionally and physically abusive, and I was parentified at 8 years old when my half-sibling was born. I basically raised them, taught them how to walk and talk, and spent the majority of my time outside of school looking after them. In addition, the older I got, the more home duties I took on, including cleaning, cooking, and even helping my sibling with their homework and school projects. After many years of therapy, I realized that my mother is a textbook narcissist, and many of our fights involved my sibling, whether it be how she treated them or protected them from our mother's unhinged ways. She was more worried about how she and our family looked to the public than actually nurturing a genuine and deep connection with us. I eventually cut my mother off at the end of 2020, in the middle of a lockdown, because I'd just had enough and the last straw drove me to near-ending things. That same year, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and CPTSD, basically caused by all of the trauma and abuse I'd endured as a child. Meanwhile, I grew up thinking my stepdad was the safe parent. I was so focused on the good that I didn't completely register all the bad. He cooked our dinner every night, but didn't get to eat until 9 or 10 p.m. because he's an alcoholic and needed to drink first before feeding the family. He'd go away for weeks or months to provide for us, but didn't have the emotional intelligence or capacity to be present as a father. The list goes on. Eventually, I realized there's no such thing as a safe parent if they're enabling and turning a blind eye on the other's abuse of their children. One time he came home from a work trip and my mother boasted that she broke a fly swatter from beating the crap out of me with it. I was in the same room when she told my stepdad, and I was met with absolute silence. We didn't ever speak of it again after that. Fast forward to early 2022 when I decided to cut him off too. The penultimate interactions with him were the last nails to the coffin. One was when the whole family visited my city and I made it clear to him that only he and my sibling were welcome to visit my house. We spent about an hour arguing over text because he wanted me to extend the invitation to my mother, even though he knew that I'd cut her off at this point and I hadn't spoken to her in 2 years. He said that he didn't want to break the news to her and that I should just get over it. My last conversation with him was when he berated me over text because I was encouraging and putting things in my siblings' head because they wanted to go on student exchange like I did, and that I should stop the BS because they couldn't afford it. Meanwhile, my sibling was telling me that our parents were so happy they wanted to go on exchange and were even helping them plan the logistics out. The funny thing was that, although I was ecstatic and supportive of them, I, again, took the parental and mature role by encouraging my sibling to start saving because the program was going to be very expensive. Needless to say, I didn't talk to my stepdad after that. Cut to June 1st this year, I come out of the shower and my boyfriend tells me he got a text from my sibling saying they feel really unsafe in the house because my stepdad was drinking all night, per usual, and was throwing a tantrum, screaming and aggressively banging on doors and throwing stuff around. He first attacked my sibling's trans friend, spurting out the most vile crap like calling them all predators. He then proceeded to add me into the mixing pot, claiming that I'd changed as soon as I started associating with my queer friends, and that he doesn't know why I would disown him. Not only was it already a high-stress situation with not knowing if my sibling was safe, his words were especially hurtful and felt targeted considering both my sibling and I are openly and outed queer people. We came out to our parents years ago and were surprised that they received it well, given that my mother's a strict Catholic and my stepdad is practically geriatric, therefore has very outdated and traditional values, beliefs, and lifestyle. The fact that he kickstarted Pride Month in the most vicious and foul way possible only added to my limitless resentment for him and also eliminated any ounce of guilt I felt for cutting him out of my life. I think this is one of those situations where you call in a welfare check. You gotta look out for your people however you can, and it might not be a bad option. Although I have heard of some horror stories going on with people who were drunk during a welfare check. You would just hope that things work out the right way. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy entitled parent story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.